Yeah, everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob. Boston Marathon Edition. We are presented and hosted by Highland, Stop Your Cramp, Not Your Race, and by Polar, Chase Your Destiny. One of our favorite people on the planet. She has won 11 Ironman titles in her career, and her Ironman PR 8:43:34, I think is correct. Mary Beth Ellis, a.k.a. Honey Badger. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me, Bob. You're one of my favorites, so it's always fun to catch up with you, and especially when you're in my neck of the woods.
You're hood, because you were in Colorado, and now what are you guys doing living here?
My husband got transferred for work, so we've been out here. It's almost 2 years now. It's crazy how fast it's gone. And I love the East Coast, unless it's April when it's snowing. And
what the heck? It's April. Shouldn't it be like 50? Something like that?
I don't know if Mother Nature didn't get the memo, but yeah, the weather for tomorrow and today is pretty rough out here.
Awful. Now you're planning to run?
That was the plan, but I felt about a week ago I fell down the stairs just rushing around the house, and just found out on Thursday I broke 2 ribs, so a little up in the air at this point.
The Honey Badger. So knowing that, when you were professional, what was the worst injury that you raced through?
Well, the worst attempt I didn't finish was 2013 when I broke my collarbone a month out of Kona.
Yes.
And got the surgery, and they repaired my AC joint, and I thought I could try, and it was a good goal because it kept me motivated that whole month, and I didn't get depressed because obviously, you break your collarbone a month out from Kona, you could get a little depressed. But race day, it's just I hadn't really ridden outside, and so I think the ride I compensated, and I got off the bike. I couldn't even stand up, so I didn't get to finish that day.
Yeah, and now you're a mom. How fun has that been?
Oh, it's been amazing. I'm glad that I waited, and I had a great career, but I couldn't ask for now a better sort of transition. It's made retirement that much sweeter because obviously I miss triathlon, I miss racing, but I get to coach and hang out with my daughter and watch her grow up.
Well, and so many of Meredith Kessler and so many of the pros from your era are now moms. Are you guys in touch?
Yeah, I definitely have been in touch with most of them over social media and online. Just, we aren't all in the same area, so kind of getting able to watch them have their kids, and a lot of them are coming back to racing, which I admire a lot. For me, it wasn't the right. I'm old, and I have a daughter now, so the combination and watching them through with their children has been amazing, and hopefully get to catch up with them all this year.
And you're coaching.
Yep.
And now you're coaching individual, group stuff. What are you doing?
Coaching individual triathletes, and then also helping out with a local swim team, the Merrimack College. They have a girls swimming team, and it's been great to help them as well.
Is that high school?
No, college.
Oh, college.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, just one of their assistant coaches, and it's been great to do some on deck coaching because most of my triathletes are spread throughout the U.S. So I don't get to see them as often. What
have you run Boston?
No.
This was going to be your first time.
Yeah. I've run a couple marathons pre-triathlon. I ran a couple, but. No, I haven't run a marathon since was 2004. Or so,
just a straight on.
Straight marathon. So.
And what was your marathon PR?
I ran a 2:41 back pre-triathlon.
Yeah, for trials, qualifying for trials.
Yeah.
Did you go to trials?
No, I was always in. My marathon career was one of get fit and then maybe do one race and then get injured.
And what were the injuries? Was it consistent or all over the lot in terms of different
injuries? A lot of them were bone injuries, and I think it's just that I didn't have a great diet, and I was working full time, and it was a combination of not getting enough recovery and taking care of my nutrition and all that. And I think a lot of triathletes too who come into the sport in their 20s, as you're building up your training volume and your bones, you tend to get a lot of those bone injuries. And for me, I would just come back too quick after an injury, and it was stupid mistakes. Coming my second week back from an injury, running 85 miles a week, stupid stuff that in hindsight you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah. Right. If I was coaching me, I would say that is the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Exactly.
So when you look back at your career, we would look back and go, okay, 8:43:34. That's got to be Mary Beth Ellis' greatest accomplishment as an athlete. What do you look at as yours?
Well, for me, my best day was the ITU World Championships and the long distance title in Sweden, and that
2015.
And that was just one of those races where the whole day just went. One of those so rare in sport where everything went amazingly well all day long, and I think that distance race was that 3/4 Ironman. And
I like that distance.
It's a sweet spot for me. I think I never quite could hold on for an Ironman, so I'd have a pretty rough spot at some point.
Yeah.
8 hours was just a little too long. 8 or 9 hours just a little too long. So that 6-hour race was sort of the perfect distance for me. And just one of those days where everything went well.
But you also did very well 2008, 2009, second at 70.3 Worlds, right? So that was a good distance for you too.
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously you don't have as much time to crash in the 70.3. Yeah. But yeah, I love 70.3, and it's exciting to see how it's becoming such a dynamic race now too, where I think those world titles are just getting more and more prestigious. So hopefully in the future it'll be as important as Kona on people's schedule and get that prestige.
So when you look at the athletes now, and I keep looking at it when I was interviewing Jan Frodeno the other day, and he just talked about how the bike splits have just, it used to be a 2:14, 2:15 for a guy was a good 70.3 bike split.
Yeah.
Now you're 10 minutes back.
Oh,
right?
It's incredible.
Right? I mean, these guys are 2:05 and sometimes they're going sub 2.
Yeah.
And then they're still swimming 22 minutes and they're running 1:10.
Yeah. No, I do think the level, it just keeps getting better and better, and I think the single sport athletes maybe don't always give the triathletes the credit, but wow, the level that the athletes at the top, like a Jan, are, their swim, their bike, and their run, they're elite at all three, and you can't have a weakness anymore at all. If you want to win a world title, you have to be. I love watching Jan come back after not having his day in Kona, and I'm still such a fan of the sport.
Yes. Well, and what I love is seeing someone like an Annie Hogg. I'm taking it to another level, and now so now you add her to the mix potentially if she steps up and goes full with the Daniela Reef, because Daniela's changed it, right? Where front pack swim, front pack bike, front pack run. It's just like it's there. You cannot, when you get to Kona, it used to be come out of the water a little bit behind. No longer.
Well, and I came up through that ITU system, so I knew of Annie. I mean, I think she was kind of doing some of the ITU as I was kind of leaving, and the level of the ITU girls, I mean, not to take away from the girls doing well in Kona, but it's just a higher level, and the ones that can maintain that for the 8 hours, I mean, maybe not all of them can, but the ones that can, I mean, it's just they're at a higher level. So you see that with Daniela, who's taken her ITU prowess, and now she can maintain it for 8 hours, and she's heads and shoulders above everyone, really. And
what's fascinating about it, Daniela was not a dominant ITU athlete. She was like 7th at the Olympics was her best performance.
7th at the Olympic is pretty good, though.
It's pretty good. No, you're right.
I would take a 7th at the Olympic.
So you wonder if you had a,
I think Nicola could, and that's
the one I would love to see Nicola.
I think she could do really well. I mean, I think somebody like Gwen is maybe a little too dynamic with her running and her bike. Like I don't know if she'd transfer to the 8 hours, but somebody like Nicola, I think, could. Sarah
Very
True
strong.
would be exciting to watch.
I think Sarah would be good at the longer distance.
I mean, obviously, I think Flora Duffy, too, if she decides to. I always thought Lisa Norden, if she could stay healthy, would be great at the long distance, too.
So when you look at, when I look at the whole Ironman landscape, and if you're an ITU athlete, like when you were going through this, I'm an ITU person, and my distance is a 1 mile, 25 mile, 10K. Now, if I want to make a living, I got to double.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I got to go up to 70.3, and even then, when you were coming out, there really wasn't a lot in 70.3 in terms of dollars. It was really the full.
Yeah.
So you got to go quadruple bike and run.
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of like telling a 100-meter guy, okay, you got to go run a 10K now.
Well,
for you, was that? Did you always have the feeling would be better non-drafting and long?
I always thought longer I was going to be a little better, and part of it was I started the sport later, and I just think that my 10K speed wasn't there with all the injuries I'd kind of gone through doing marathons. I I never could get back to my 5K speed from
Right.
college. And so I thought I'd be better going longer, but I think the ITU girls stepping up to the 70.3 isn't as dramatic. I think a lot of them can just tweak a few things with their training and be pretty competitive right away.
Oh, there's no question.
But with the Ironman is sort of that is a bigger step, and that's one where I think it's more about getting the miles on the bike. I think a lot of them could immediately do the swim and the run,
Right.
obviously, and it's just getting that time on the bike, because you're on the bike for a long time, and in the aero position versus ITU, they're on the road
Right.
bikes, and so it's getting used to that uncomfortable power, not all out, but just kind of holding that for 5 hours.
Jared Schumacher was talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
The toughest part was being in that aero position for 5 hours, 4.5 hours, and then being able to run after that, and then monitoring nutrition, and there's way more thinking going on, right? And when you're in ITU racing, you're racing. Right, it's more criterium type of format where you're accelerating out of the corners and going really hard. Now it's steady state, and staying and sort of monitoring. You're looking at your dashboard and making sure my power is good and I'm hydrated and this and that. The thinking part becomes way important.
And it's almost for those ITU athletes, it's almost boring out there. Because you're going hard, but you're not going so hard that you're on your line, or if you are, you're going too hard. So, there's a lot of time on the bike where, in some of the smaller races, I'd be by myself for 4 or 5 hours, and you're just sort of, you have to find some way to remember you're in a race. Like, there'd be sometimes you'd just be out there, like, by yourself, like, am I still on the course?
I haven't seen anybody in a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. But, so there's definitely that mind-numbing where, the training and the racing is a little different for them, because in an ITU race, they're engaged the whole time. You
Always.
have to be... you have to be on it. There's the pack situation and
absolutely
athletes all around you.
And what's fascinating is you'll see guys coming off, and they'll be within 30 seconds of the lead, and they'll be at 30th place.
Yeah.
Right. So it's one thing you're 30 seconds back, but it's another thing that you've got to pass 29 guys to get to the lead.
Well, and the other thing is you have one thing go wrong in an ITU race, and your race is done. Whereas an Ironman, I've had stuff go wrong and still won races, so you can definitely overcome those challenges.
What do you look at as your best Ironman race, best Kona?
The best Kona was probably 2012. Even though I had some issues, I ended up 5th, and I got a penalty just not paying attention on the bike, and
that's a tough part about that race because of the stagger you have to maintain. It's sometimes can be detrimental to racing. Yeah. Because you can't just pass one person, you've got to pass a whole crew.
And it was a pro guy, so he was in with with us, and that's the other issue that the pro women have is, pro guys should,
if they're back
the fact
with
that they're causing penalties. They caused a penalty for me that day, and also for Carolyn Steffen, and
they shouldn't
be in the mix in our race. It's not. But
right. What can you do?
Yeah.
Do you like? I love what they've done where they are doing for 70.3 Worlds, where one day is guys and one day is girls. That's been really good, right?
Well, and I think it just lets the women have their own highlighted show. Because if you're doing both pro races on the same day, I do think the women kind of get a little overshadowed.
Of course, because they're not at the front. That was always one of the problems we had when we owned, Rock and Roll Marathon, and is the guys are at the front and the girls are back.
In the mix.
In the mix. So it's very difficult to get motorcycles in there. It's just reality.
Yeah.
So when you have the women's race on its own, or the women are going off first and the guys are going off after, you need to have something where you can get the media in there to be able to cover it.
Yeah, because it's not the media's fault. It's sort of just the way the race plays out. You don't see them as much as you get to see the men. So, I think giving them their own showcase it's great. It's only going to help the women.
You've raced all over the world. Favorite race?
I love racing in Europe. I think my favorite race of all time, though, has to be Alpe d'Huez.
Talk a little bit about that, because everybody I interview, when I was talking to Scott DeFelipe and Carrie Lester, everybody talks Alpe d'Huez.
Yeah, it's just it's an iconic race. And back with Brett in the old days, we would bike from our training base in Les Sines over 2 days. So, we'd bike 150K each day to get to Alpe d'Huez and then have a rest day and then do the race and then ride home. So it was the whole event. It was the whole event that really was special for me. You know, it was an important part of the training block, and the actual race was amazing too. It's
so
such
it's a
hard
beautiful
race.
lake.
Yeah, you swim in a cold. It's freezing
really
cold lake. Yeah, and then if you're doing the long race, it's 2 mountain passes, and then the third one is up to Alpe d'Huez.
You go up Alpe d'Huez, just like in Tour de France.
And then you run at the top. And the run is amazing too. It's up top there. It's a mix of trails and roads, and really pretty because obviously you're on top of the Alps.
Yeah.
So you get some great views, and it's one of those races that it just really.
It's a bucket list type of thing.
Oh, for sure. Anybody that does triathlon, I would recommend it. And you could do the short race if you don't want to do the longer one, and that one you swim and then you go straight up the Alp and then run at the top. So you skip the other 2 passes, and it's obviously hard, but any triathlete that
can do it.
You can get up it. I mean, and Alpe d'Huez has a lot of switchbacks, so it's not quite as like it'll be steep, and then you can kind of have a little rest at the switchback. And
did you change gearing for that thing? Did you guys use more of a road bike?
No, and this is where some years I had some struggles, but I always rode a pretty big chain ring, like a 56-39 or 55-39, and my last year I was on 650 wheels, which kind of gave you a little bit extra, but my last year was on 700 wheels and trying to hype up I was on a 55-42, and
So you had nowhere near enough gear.
Yeah, I needed more gears, but I think just a couple extra gears and you're fine going up there. I would definitely not recommend going with the 42, but I think if you had a 39 and maybe a 27 in the back, you'd be fine.
That's very cool. And favorite races in the U.S.?
I love Mount Tremblant. That's in
Canada.
But
that's a beautiful area. I love it.
Yeah, I mean it's great, and I always love going to St. George. I never raced right there, but they did a great job with the event and the athletes, and Oceanside was always a special race. Again, a race I never did great in, but
the course is awesome.
Oh yeah, and it's great it's such a great course, and it has such a great atmosphere. It's sort of the first official U.S. race of the season.
Start of the year.
Yeah, exactly. It always has a stacked field, and it's really fun. And obviously Kona too. You can't beat. That's a race that every triathlete I hope gets to do at some point, and I love that they still have the legacy program. I think that's great for the sport. That people
can get in.
Yeah.
So when you look back at your career as a whole, is it hard to be retired when you're following this stuff online? And 2, do you look back and go, you know what? I was a runner. I was dealing with injuries. I moved to triathlon. Had a great career as a triathlete. Dropped the mic. it was great.
Yeah, I realized my last year that I was never going to be satisfied with my career, but I was always going to want to do more. And I think for me, I felt like I never had a great race in Kona, and I would have liked to have done that, but at the same time, you have to just accept what you were able to accomplish, and celebrate your victories, and you don't have to be necessarily satisfied, but just know that you did what you could,
your best.
and it's time to move on. And for me, just with my age and with having my daughter, I knew it was time that I wasn't going to be able to. The one thing I would still love to do is top 3 in Kona, and with my age, and I think that ship has sailed. So it's not as hard to move on, because that's sort of the only thing I really wish
that was
I'd
the only
been
thing
able
I was
to,
missing. Yeah.
That would be the feather that I never got to capture, but.
So when your daughter says, "Hey, Mommy, I was looking you up online and says your name's Honey Badger," what does that mean? Where does that come from?
Well, I'll probably have to tell her the story of when I got the nickname, and it's just in training I was always a little intense, and that's my coach Brett Sutton gave it to me. And it was during a swim set. We were doing a time trial, and one of the guys was just goofing off at the end of the lane, and I almost flip turned and pushed off on him. and after that session is when Brett just said, you don't give a shit in training, and just gave me the nickname, and it definitely stuck. And that's the way I always approach training and racing. I was a little bit, my personality out of training, but then once I was in training and racing, I was definitely a bit of a hard ass. Yeah.
Well, as well you should be.
Yeah. I definitely took it seriously. So.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. As always, so much fun to chat with you. Every year you got to join us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Bob.
Mary Beth Ellis has been our guest, a.k.a. the Honey Badger. Breakfast with Bob, Boston Marathon Edition, presented and hosted by Highlands. Stop your cramp, not your race, and by Polar, chase your destiny. Hold on, everybody. We will be right back.